The engineer laughed at the black mechanic. "If you fix that engine, I'll marry you." And that cruel taunt echoed through the Solaris Automotive R&D facility in Berlin like a shot fired in the tense silence of that Monday morning. Ingrid Peterson, chief engineer at Solaris Automotive, held her cell phone pointed directly at Kwame Mensah as she repeated the phrase with a venomous smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm recording everything, Kwame. When you fail miserably, I want everyone to see what happens when someone tries to take your place." Kwame was 42 years old and had spent more time under car hoods than Ingrid had spent studying at prestigious technical universities. His calloused hands told stories of engines saved when all the other technicians had given up. His small workshop in the industrial outskirts of Berlin didn't have state-of-the-art equipment or certifications hanging on the wall. But it had something the Solaris engineering department could never buy: pure mechanical genius. The experimental engine on the metal workbench had withstood 3 weeks of technical analysis. 5 engineers with multiple doctorates had declared the project dead after a catastrophic failure that cost the company €300,000. It was a revolutionary prototype for hydrogen-powered vehicles with proprietary technology that promised to increase efficiency by 70%. "You have until Friday," Ingrid announced to the small crowd of employees who had gathered to watch the spectacle. 5 days to do what our expert team couldn't do in 3 weeks. And when you fail, I want everyone to understand why some people need to accept their limitations." The comment had come up during a tense meeting about delays on the production line. Someone had casually mentioned that even Kwame from the repair shop down the street could fix this faster than their department. Ingrid had exploded, her cheeks red with anger behind her professional mask. "Bring in this miracle mechanic, then," she had taunted in a cutting tone. "If he can fix what 5 trained specialists couldn't, I'll personally hand him a €300,000 a year contract." It was a cruel trap, and everyone knew it. Kwame didn't have a college degree. He didn't have access to proprietary technical manuals, and he certainly didn't have the computerized diagnostic equipment that cost more than most people's homes. "Just look at him, Gunter," Ingrid's assistant muttered to his colleagues. "He probably didn't even finish high school, and he wants to compete with real engineers." Kwame didn't show that he had heard the comment, but his dark eyes were fixed on the complex engine with an intensity that made some of those present shift uncomfortably. It was the silent concentration of someone who had faced impossible challenges before and learned to read secrets that others didn't even know existed. "Pathetic?" Ingrid whispered loud enough to be heard, filming every second of the planned humiliation. "He doesn't even know where to start." But while everyone else mocked him silently, something in Kwame's eyes suggested a dangerous serenity that didn't match the seemingly desperate situation. It was the calm of someone who holds information that could rewrite the entire narrative of superiority. There, in front of all the contemptuous stares and cameras pointed at him, he stood firm like someone who knows the true weight of the words he had just heard and the price some would pay for their arrogance. If you're enjoying this story of justice and revenge, don't forget to subscribe to the channel to find out how a moment of humiliation turned into the biggest mistake Ingrid Peterson ever made in her life. The video of Ingrid's provocation spread through the company's social media like wildfire. In less than 24 hours, the recording had been shared in dozens of internal groups, accompanied by cruel laughter and poisonous comments, dissecting every second of public humiliation. "Someone should tell Kwame that marriage doesn't include medical benefits," wrote Helga from the sales department, followed by a row of crying emojis. Imagine the look on his face when he finds out he can't even fix a toaster. Kwame found out about the viral video when his teenage son Noah came home from school with red eyes from crying. "Papa, my classmates are sharing a video of you on TikTok. They're saying horrible things." Sitting in the small living room of the apartment he had shared with his son since his wife died in a car accident 5 years ago, Kwame felt a familiar pang of controlled anger rise in his chest. It was the same feeling he had learned to control when the doctors at the public hospital told him there was nothing more they could do for Lena, that maybe things would be different at a private clinic. "Don't listen to those people, my prince," Kwame murmured, hugging his son. Some people only feel important by putting others down. But inside, something was being carefully cataloged and filed away in a dark corner of his mind. Every face that had laughed, every cruel comment, every person who had filmed his humiliation for free entertainment. At Solaris Automotive, Ingrid was savoring every moment of her anticipated victory. During Monday's morning meeting, she projected the video onto the conference room screen, eliciting widespread laughter from the executives. "Look at the look of confidence on his face," Ingrid sneered, pausing the video at the exact moment Kwame silently nodded to accept the challenge. "It's almost touching how some people just can't recognize their own limitations." The company's CEO, Dieter Schmidt, a 65-year-old man who had built his automotive empire through decades of hard work, watched the scene with an increasingly uncomfortable expression. "Ingrid, don't you think this has gone too far? The man isn't even here to defend himself." "That's exactly why it's educational," Ingrid retorted with a sharp smile. "How many times are we going to waste time and resources on people who are clearly not qualified to be here? This is a lesson for all of us about maintaining appropriate standards." Gunter, the sycophantic assistant, took the opportunity to attack. "My cousin is a mechanical engineer with a degree from RWTH Aachen, and he says that this type of motor is practically impossible to repair without specialized equipment. Kwame probably can't even read the technical diagrams." What none of them knew was that Kwame had spent the last 3 days immersed in something that went far beyond technical diagrams. In his small workshop, surrounded by technical manuals borrowed from the public library and patent printouts he had downloaded for free from the internet, he was discovering something that would make all that laughter stick in their throats. The engine wasn't just broken. It had been deliberately sabotaged. It was subtle, almost imperceptible to anyone without decades of practical experience. But Kwame had learned to read signs that office engineers would never notice. 3 small components had been intentionally damaged to simulate natural failure, but the pattern was too specific to be a coincidence. Someone at Solaris Automotive had sabotaged the company's own prototype. "Interesting," Kwame muttered to himself, meticulously photographing each piece of evidence with his old cell phone. "Very interesting." On Tuesday, Ingrid decided to step up her humiliation campaign. She created a WhatsApp group called Miracle Mechanic Updates and added all of the company's employees, posting sarcastic updates about Kwame's progress. Day 2. "Our hero is probably still trying to figure out where the start button is," she wrote, followed by dozens of laughs and approving reactions from her colleagues. "I bet he's given up and is at the bar," added Franz from accounting. "Or maybe he realized this isn't the place for people like him," commented Svenja from Human Resources. But while the entire company was having fun at his expense, Kwame was having a very interesting conversation with Josef Richter, an 80-year-old veteran mechanic who had worked at Solaris for 50 years before retiring. "That kind of sabotage is the signature of someone on the inside," Joseph said, examining the photos Kwame had taken of the engine. "I know that pattern. I saw it before about 20 years ago when someone was trying to derail specific projects to favor other contracts." Kwame nodded slowly. "You know people who still work there?" Joseph smiled, his eyes sparkling with friendly mischief. "Son, I know people in places you wouldn't believe, and some of those people are very interested in knowing why prototypes are being sabotaged." On Wednesday, Ingrid was so confident of her victory that she did something that would prove to be the biggest mistake of her career. She called a local Berlin radio show and told the whole story live, describing Kwame as some mechanic who thinks he can compete with real professionals. "It's a matter of proper education," she explained to listeners. "Some people just need to learn to accept their natural limitations." What Ingrid didn't know was that one of the program's most attentive listeners was Dr. Anya Sharma, a professor of mechanical engineering at the Technical University of Berlin and a consultant specializing in industrial espionage and sabotage. Anya had worked on similar cases before, and something in the description of the unrepairable engine had set off alarm bells in her experienced mind. That same afternoon, Anya showed up at Kwame's workshop with an unexpected proposal. "Mr. Mensah, My name is Anya Sharma. I heard about your situation on the radio, and I'd really like to take a look at that impossible engine." Kwame watched her carefully. Anya was an Indian woman in her late 40s with a confident posture of someone who had fought to earn respect in predominantly male and white environments. "University professor?" Kwame asked, among other things. Anya smiled. "But today, I'm here as someone who recognizes sabotage when she sees it." Kwame slowly opened the door to his workshop, finally allowing someone to see what he had discovered. While Ingrid continued her campaign of humiliation on social media, posting cruel memes and racking up likes from equally prejudiced colleagues, something was crystallizing in the concentrated silence of Kwame's workshop. Every recorded laugh, every poisonous comment, every moment of public contempt was being carefully archived, not only in his memory, but now in concrete evidence that would soon show exactly who was really out of place in this story. Dr. Anya Sharma wasn't just a university professor. For 15 years, she had served as a technical expert for the German Federal Criminal Police Office on cases of industrial espionage. And what she saw in Kwame's workshop confirmed her darkest suspicions. "This isn't just sabotage," Anya murmured, examining the detailed photos Kwame had taken. "It's a specific pattern I've seen before. Someone at Solaris is selling prototypes to competitors and sabotaging the originals to cover up the theft." Joseph Richter nodded grimly. "I've suspected something like this for the last few years. I've been with the company. Projects that failed too strangely to be coincidence." Meanwhile, Ingrid intensified her humiliation campaign with dangerous confidence. She had created a public Facebook event called Wedding of the Century Engineer and Mechanic for Friday, inviting all company employees to witness the historic moment. "I've even picked out the dress," she posted on her stories, filming herself laughing hysterically. "Something very simple, because it's going to be a quick ceremony. Like 5 seconds of, 'I told you this wouldn't work,' and that's it." The comments were cruel and abundant. "Poor guy. He has no idea what's coming," wrote Gunter. "Someone should warn him that he can back out now and keep some dignity." Kwame watched silently, capturing screenshots of every post, every comment, every moment of documented cruelty. His son, Noah, who had learned how to use video editing software at school, was helping him organize all the digital evidence. "Papa, look at this," Noah said, showing him his phone. "She made a video imitating you at work. It already has 20,000 views." In the video, Ingrid had staged a cruel parody, pretending to be a confused mechanic trying to understand a complex engine using an exaggerated voice and exaggerated gestures that clearly satirized racial stereotypes. "Perfect," Kwame muttered, saving the video. "Keep documenting everything." On Thursday, Anya returned with information that completely changed the game. "Kwame, I need to show you something. I got access to Solaris's maintenance records for the last 5 years through a contact in the insurance department. The documents revealed a systematic pattern. 10 prototypes had failed in a similar way over the past 4 years, always following the same method of sabotage that Kwame had identified. More importantly, all of the failures had occurred on projects led by black engineers or women. "This isn't just about technology," Anya explained. "It's about keeping certain people out of leadership positions. When projects fail, these engineers get demoted or fired." Joseph connected the dots. "And guess who always took over the projects after the failures? The same group of white engineers who are now laughing at you." Kwame spent that night working on the engine with surgical precision. He wasn't just fixing it. He was meticulously documenting every piece of evidence of sabotage, creating a technical report that would be impossible to refute. "Papa," said Noah, entering the workshop with a cup of coffee, "are you sure you want to do this? These people are very powerful." Kwame stopped working and looked at his son. "You know what your mother always said, that the difference between justice and revenge is that justice protects other people from going through what you went through." On Friday morning, Ingrid arrived at the company wearing a bright red blazer and carrying a small professional camera. She had hired a freelance videographer to document the historic moment in high quality. "Guys, in 2 hours, We're going to have some real, viral content, she announced to her colleagues. The kind of video that teaches lessons about knowing your limits. Gunter was ecstatic. I've already set up the WhatsApp group to share it in real time. This will be a meme in minutes. What none of them knew was that Kwame had already arrived. Anya was parked discreetly across the street from the company with professional recording equipment borrowed from the university. Joseph was positioned at the entrance filming with his cell phone. And Kwame stood calmly next to the repaired engine with an almost imperceptible smile, holding a thick envelope that contained much more than anyone at Solaris could imagine. Because sometimes, when powerful people completely underestimate those they consider inferior, they forget that true intelligence doesn't need a diploma to rewrite all the rules of the game. At 2 on Friday afternoon, the Solaris Automotive R&D facility was crowded like never before. Ingrid had gotten what she wanted, an audience of over 100 employees, executives, and even some important clients she had invited to witness an educational moment about professional standards. The hired cameraman was already in position, broadcasting live on the company's social media channels. Ingrid wore a bright red blazer and held a bouquet of plastic flowers she had bought specifically for the charade. Everyone, in a few minutes you're going to witness a valuable lesson about the importance of knowing your limitations, she announced to the camera, smiling with a cruelty that made some employees shift uncomfortably. Kwame Mensah promised to fix an engine that 5 engineers said was impossible to fix. Let's see how that ends. Kwame entered the warehouse carrying a toolbox and walking with a calmness that contrasted dramatically with Ingrid's frenetic energy. Behind him, Anya Sharma entered discreetly, filming everything with professional equipment from the university. "Ah, our groom has arrived," Gunter shouted, eliciting cruel laughter from the crowd. "Where's the suit? You can't marry the engineer in dirty overalls." Kwame positioned himself next to the engine he had spent the last 5 days repairing. With precise movements, he connected the last cables and checked the fluid levels. The silence in the warehouse was tense, broken only by the muffled laughter of a few employees. "Before we begin," Kwame said, his clear, firm voice echoing through the warehouse, "I'd like everyone to see something interesting I discovered during the repair." Ingrid frowned. This wasn't in the humiliation script she had planned. Kwame held up his old cell phone, connecting it to a portable projector Anya had lent him. "This engine didn't break by accident. It was deliberately sabotaged." The first image projected onto the wall showed components damaged with surgical precision. "Look here. 3 sensors were intentionally broken to simulate natural failure. The pattern is too specific to be a coincidence." A nervous murmur ran through the crowd. Ingrid tried to interrupt. "This is ridiculous. You're making excuses for your incompetence." "Interesting that you mention incompetence," interrupted Anya, approaching with a thick folder. "Dr. Anya Sharma, professor of mechanical engineering and former BKA expert on industrial espionage. I have analyzed the evidence collected by Mr. Mensah and can confirm this engine was sabotaged, following a pattern I have identified in 10 previous cases at this company." The blood drained from Ingrid's face. What is going on here?" Kwame continued projecting images. Each case of sabotage occurred on projects led by black engineers or women. When the projects failed, these professionals were demoted or fired. Guess who always took over the projects after that? Joseph Richter emerged from the crowd carrying documents. 50 years working at this company has given me access to a lot of information. Ingrid, you and your group have received promotions and bonuses totaling 1.5 million euros over the past 4 years, always after taking over projects that mysteriously failed. Ingrid was visibly shaking. "You can't prove anything. This is defamation." Kwame smiled for the first time in 5 days. "I can." "Gunter, do you remember the video you made imitating me in a racist way? What you didn't know is that my son recorded everything and saved it before you could delete it." The projection changed to the cruel video of Ingrid imitating racial stereotypes. Horror-stricken gasps echoed through the warehouse. Important clients began to leave. clearly uncomfortable. "And Ingrid," Kwame continued, "do you remember all those cruel posts in the WhatsApp group? My son printed every single one, including your private messages discussing how to keep certain types of people in their place." The projection exploded into devastating screenshots. Messages from Ingrid talking about cleaning the company of undesirable elements and using creative methods to eliminate the competition from diversity. Dieter Schmidt, the company's CEO, had arrived silently and watched with a look of growing horror. "Ingrid, in my office, now." "Wait," said Kwame. "I'm not finished yet." He turned to the engine and started it. The smooth, perfect roar of the machine filled the R&D facility. It wasn't just working, it worked better than the original. "This engine hasn't just been repaired, it's been optimized. I've increased its efficiency by 20%, using techniques that anyone with real experience, not just a degree, knows." Ingrid collapsed into a chair, her red blazer now looking like a flag of surrender. Tears of anger and humiliation streamed down her face. Gunter stammered, "Kwame, we didn't know. It was just a joke." "A joke?" Kwame stared at him coldly. "You tried to destroy my reputation, humiliate my son at school, and perpetuate a system that prevents talented people from growing because of the color of their skin. That's not a joke. It's a crime." Anya approached the microphone. "The complete documentation of this investigation has already been sent to the German Federal Criminal Police Office, the State Board of Engineers, and the press. Ingrid Peterson and Gunter Schmidt will face criminal charges of industrial espionage, sabotage, and discrimination." The silence in the warehouse was deafening. Ingrid tried to stand up, but her legs gave way. "By the way," said Kwame calmly, turning off the engine, "about that marriage proposal, thank you, but I'm going to have to decline. I prefer partners who respect me as a human being." As Ingrid was escorted out by company security, completely broken and humiliated in front of everyone she had tried to impress, Kwame stood firm beside the engine he had repaired, not only with his technical skills, but with something much more powerful: dignity, intelligence, and a sense of justice that no diploma could buy. Because sometimes, when privileged people forget that competence has no color, they discover in the most brutal way possible that underestimating someone can be the most expensive mistake of their lives. A mistake that not only destroys careers, but rewrites entire stories about who really deserves to be at the top. 6 months after what Solaris Automotive employees came to call the Day of Truth, Kwame Mensah sat in his new office overlooking downtown Berlin. The plaque on the door read, "Kwame Mensah, Director of Hydrogen Innovation, Solaris Automotive." Dieter Schmidt had made quick and definitive decisions after the events of that day. Ingrid Peterson was fired for cause and faced 3 criminal charges for industrial espionage, racial discrimination, and conspiracy. Gunter Schmidt was also fired and was working as a used car salesman in a small town, trying to pay off his legal debts. The irony, Kwame thought, watching through the window, is that they were always afraid I would take their place. They never imagined I would create something much bigger. The company had offered Kwame not only an executive position, but also full funding for his inclusive innovation department. His first project, a mentoring program that connected experienced mechanics with newly graduated engineers, was already being implemented in 5 German states. Anya Sharma now worked as a specialist consultant for the company, investigating and correcting decades of institutionalized discriminatory practices. Her partnership with Kwame had resulted in discoveries that benefited dozens of professionals who had been systematically disadvantaged. "Papa, did you see this?" Noah entered the office carrying his tablet. Now 17 and studying engineering at Technical University of Munich, on a full scholarship funded by the company, he had become a recognized digital activist. Ingrid tried to post on LinkedIn about overcoming personal challenges, but the comments, well, the internet has a memory. Kwame smiled softly. Ingrid had tried to rebuild her professional image, but evidence of her racist behavior continued to circulate on social media. No reputable engineering firm wanted to associate its name with hers. Joseph Richter, now a senior consultant in Kwame's department, walked in carrying reports. Sales of the new optimized hydrogen engine have exceeded all projections. 4 competing companies have already made offers to license its technology. And Gunter? Kwame asked. He tried to sell confidential information from his previous company to a competitor. Joseph replied with a wry smile. He was caught in the same trap he used to set for others. Now he's facing federal charges of industrial espionage. That afternoon, Kwame received an unexpected phone call. It was from the host of the local Berlin radio show, where Ingrid had tried to humiliate him months earlier. Mr. Mensah, we'd like to invite you to talk about your journey and your new automotive industry inclusion program. Many people want to hear your story directly from you. Kwame accepted not out of revenge, but because he knew his story could inspire others facing similar situations. During the live interview, the host asked, "How do you feel about Ingrid Peterson now?" Kwame paused thoughtfully. "I don't feel anger. I feel sorry for her. She wasted years of her life feeding prejudices instead of using her talent to build something meaningful. The real tragedy isn't what she did to me. It's what she did to herself." When he got home that night, Noah was in the kitchen preparing dinner. "Papa, there's something I've always wanted to ask you. That day in the R&D facility, when everyone was laughing at you, did you really know you were going to prove them all wrong?" Kwame hugged his son. "My prince, your mother taught me something important before she died. She said that dignity isn't about never falling down. It's about how you get back up. And sometimes letting people underestimate you is the biggest advantage you can have." At that moment, his cell phone vibrated with a notification. It was a Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung article. Kwame Mensah, from neighborhood mechanic to hydrogen innovation director. How one man turned prejudice into progress. 6 months ago, Ingrid Peterson had tried to publicly humiliate him for believing that some people need to know their place. Today, Kwame Mensah was redefining exactly what that place was for talented people in the industry, regardless of their color or background. Ingrid had lost her career, her reputation, and her credibility. Gunter was facing criminal charges, but Kwame had built something that would last for generations. A legacy of fairness, inclusion, and excellence that proved that the best revenge isn't destroying those who hurt you, but building something so extraordinary that it renders all the smallness they try to impose on you irrelevant. Because sometimes when privileged people forget that greatness has no color or social class, they discover that underestimating someone can be the catalyst that transforms a victim into a leader, a moment of humiliation into a revolution, and an end into an even more powerful beginning. If you also believe that true justice comes through building, not destruction, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove that dignity always wins over arrogance and talent always finds its way to the top, no matter how many obstacles are put in its path.